Hello, everybody. So, critical thinking, huh? Uh, this is my video, this is my channel, so it may take me a while to, get to the point of what I want to talk about in this video, and, it's about a certain individual that I added in the description. You can, check out, I'm assuming, her channel. Okay, she does, I think, put the she, her in it, but it's like, you stuck in 2020, that's for sure. 2020. Alright, like, okay, I'm not trying to be rude, alright? I'm intentionally avoiding not saying swear words in this video, like in a lot of my normal videos, you know? Despite the, thumbnail, you know? Because I want the person, which I don't know if she's actually going to comment or watch the video or anything like that, but it's like, she's like a micro celebrity, right? You know? So, maybe there's a chance, you know? Because I've done it before with other YouTubers, which I don't think she's really a YouTuber per se, but she does upload YouTube videos, kind of. So, there's that. And also 3 Kids' Choice Awards. That's interesting. But, this is about critical thinking, obviously. But, yeah, I'm trying to give some context of who this person is. So, she's from a TV show from Nickelodeon or something like that. And, I don't know, man, like, the Thundermans, I think it was? Really? The Thundermans? Like, I get that these people are just doing it to get paid, or are just doing it because they just so happen to be a part of it, but it's like, really? The Thundermans? And you made a video about critical thinking? Sure. She's like, oh, something about golf or whatever, you know. Oh, because some people get heart attacks or whatever. That didn't change people's groupthink. That didn't change the fact that most conflicts happen in the world because people assume when this side does it, the side that they disagree with does it. Oh, that must have been a wrong. That must have been, you know, a bad thing. Whereas when their side does it, including yours, including the one you agree with, oh, it's just a mistake. Oh, it's just a strange thing, you know? And I'm not sure if she actually does the critical thinking she says she does. And it's not like, oh, because she's hot, she's physically looking hot, oh, she's not doing this kind of stuff. Because, you know the stereotype of women when they're physically attractive in a young age, which I'm not assuming she's, like, super duper young. I'm just assuming she's, like, young enough to, like, be considered young, you know what I mean? Where, oh, she looks 22, but she's actually 30 kind of thing. You know, not like, oh, she's, she looks like she's a little kid and she's like 100 years old. Like, no, I'm not trying to do that whole anime thing. That's not what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to hate on this lady. I'm just saying that, like, you with your critical thinking is a little bit suspicious. And the way you phrase it makes me question you. You know, like, the way you phrase, oh, you could mean this, oh, you can mean that. So by your own logic, you could be lying to me for clout because you want attention. Shocker. Ooh. Famous person who does famous thing wants attention? Who would have thought? You know, but one of the biggest things that people have a hard time when it comes to critical thinking is acknowledging Not just necessarily that they could be wrong or right about a certain subject, but getting them to acknowledge that their own bias isn't the only worldview, especially when it comes to the more controversial things of today's world, such as sex, religion, and politics. And what are the three most controversial things that people often talk about on this, internet, that are the most divided and the most, things that adults do to be adults? Sex, religion, and especially politics. Because the right blames the left for the things that they cause, and the left blames the right for the things that they cause. Either way, you're still screwed. You're just picking different versions of, hey, how can we screw your life today? Hey, how can we have organized violence? Hey, how can we have totalitarian government? But let's phrase it as anarchy, right? But what they really want is they just want laws to do the things that they specifically want because it's on the side that they agree with. They don't want to, do the different thing or actually disagree. They just want their side to do that thing, They only disagree if their side disagrees with it. They only agree if their side agrees with it. That's how some people are. It's like a copy of a copy of a copy, They see other people do it, so they just assume that's the right way to do it. But they don't change their bias because they're just used to being in that way, or because that's all they're given on their internet feeds sometimes, Stuff like irony poisoning, for example. Basically, using humor into extremist, radicalized ideology that makes you into somebody you don't want to be, And it doesn't matter if you're on the far right or the far left. You're still gonna have, beliefs that you may not realize are extreme. And sometimes they don't even do the extreme stuff. They want other people to do it. I call it the McDonald's salad problem. Like, everybody wants people to eat, healthy stuff, right? They want them to eat the McDonald's salad. But do they actually want to get a McDonald's salad? I don't think so. I don't think they do. They probably don't want it. They want other people to do it. Same thing with critical thinking. They don't want to critically think. They want other people to critically think for them. They want the AI to do it. They want the computers, the Google, the DuckDuckGo, the ChatGPT, the whatever else is out there, the Gronk. Gronk, is this true? Gronk, is this true? Gronk, is this true? No, it's probably not. Or maybe it is. But even if it was or isn't, regardless if it's true or false, your issue is that you're not actually trying to seek the answer. You just assume that you can get the answer. Because what if you come across a question you don't have an answer for that the AI can't give you? What are you going to do in that situation? You can type and type and type, but eventually there are just going to be some answers that you cannot, questions, that you cannot truly find an answer to. You can get an idea, you can get a thought, but there are just some things that are just, why don't you find that out yourself, Because if something is true, then it's true. But if it's not, it's not. But how do you know? How do you know it's not a lie? How do you know it's not just you know, slopping your head, slooping around, moving around, thinking, maybe it's true because I didn't think about it, you know? And it gets so crazy because celebrities do this all the time and it leads to so much groupthink. And they just think, oh, they must be this way because they don't align with me religiously or politically or some bullcrap like that. Nah. You're just in your head because you're so used to being famous and so used to being rich. Now, being rich, that happens, you know? Like, there are people that are just like, they have a lot of money because they're super successful or they did these stupid stuff or whatnot. But, like, using your religion or using your politics, or sometimes using your wealth, but usually it's the politics or the religion as an excuse to just be a douchebag, it's not exactly the best road. You know, like, unless you were a douchebag to begin with, you're not gonna be so good if you make yourself this perfect, great being. And I'm not saying this lady that I'm criticizing is. I'm just saying, like, she could go down that route. You know what I mean? She could be already there and not even realize it because caught up in the fame, you know? And if you are watching this video, which I don't remember your name, but I'll try to, I guess, you probably either don't need to change too much, or you need to change so much that you probably need to become a different person. Now, I'm not saying you have to move to a different country, wear a bunch of makeup, have a bunch of plastic surgery, and become, I don't know, Becky Sharp to get your life through and now and again, you know? That's the Flash reference if you didn't understand that. Because this house is a bitchin'. Now, that's the only real swear word I'm gonna really be saying in this video. Because again, I want the person who's added in this video to, you know, watch the video if she does. Which she probably won't, because, you know, you get a bunch of likes and comments and stuff like that, so it's not like it's inevitable that she'll comment on your video. I didn't agree with what you said because you're evil or something, or you had an opinion I didn't like, therefore I must cancel you for quote-unquote hate speech, you know? Oh, you said hate speech. Yeah, sure. You lacking critical thinking, which I'm not sure if she's actually lacking it. Like, she knows she can do critical thinking. It's just what I'm saying is I don't think she's realized she's not actually doing it, at least to an extent. I don't know how else to explain it, you know? Like, I'm not a Clifford DeVoe. I'm not the thinker, you know? Like, I'm not trying to be some, oh, I must take all the smart people and make them into me so that way everybody's dumb kind of person. You know, I'm not trying to make you dumb when I speak. I'm trying to have an idea. I'm trying to have a thought, you know? But hey, what if this lady is smart? What if this lady does know what I'm talking about? What if this lady assumes, hey, maybe he's right, but I actually do think that way? Then it's like, I guess I was wrong. You know, mind blown. And this video may be longer than intended if you actually did get this far. So lock in now. Okay? Like, this could go on for quite a while. So just be aware of that. All this because of one YouTube short that I saw on, YouTube. And, yeah. Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? You're gonna go horsing around, thinking, maybe let's go with this bull crap for that bull crap. But whatever. Anyway, it's just thinking, because people keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. They forget, oh, it's 4 a.m. now. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. You know, I say to the people, I talk to them like their name is Olivia, even though it's not. And then I think to myself, in my head, maybe I could be right, maybe I could be wrong, but I know something's happening. You know, like, I don't know what the issue is, but I know there is an issue. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to solve it because I've never really thought about solving it, you know? Why is my dad scrolling on Facebook all the time and then talking about Candy Crush better than Mom? I don't know. Maybe it's because he's so used to it. He's so brain dead. Well, brain dead from all the scrolling on Facebook, that he doesn't realize that the only thing he's good at is reading and writing and doing work at the workplace, you know? And somehow, he could be ready for retirement in a decade or two. Ain't that crazy? I know. But then it's like, what if he doesn't retire? What if he dies tomorrow? You know? That kind of thing. What if Armageddon came today? Or what if Armageddon came after you were dead? Well, you can't do really anything about it because you'd be dead in that situation. But then if you were alive, what would that Armageddon even be? Would it be consequences of, say, aggravating a specific god, like the Christian God, for example, because that's the big one. That's the big boy, at least of my era, at least of my age. I'm talking about the most dominant religion of when I posted this video. You know, time of recording. Ooh, can't go a day or can't go a video, almost a long form video, without saying time of recording. I know it's kind of a meme within my own community, but whatever. Anyway, like, there's this rock, right? There's this rock. I don't know what it's made out of specifically, but I know it's a rock of some kind. If this was made out of wood, would I treat it just the same as if it was made out of, I don't know, plastic or anything else? Probably not. But this time, it's rock, so I'm going to treat it as such. Not because I was told to do it, but because I know what a rock is. You know? Like, I'm not counting 1 plus 1 equals 2 because I was told that. I was counting 1 plus 1 because I know how math works to an extent. Now, I'm not a person super duper into math or anything, but it's still math, you know? Still math. You're mathing it out. Your brain is braining, I guess. You know, I don't know. I'm just saying words and hope they're working out, you know? And the funniest part is I'm dyslexic, but I read better than people who don't have any disability, mental and or physical, you know? Like, we live in a society like that nowadays. And there are people who read that language, who read English, who are native speakers. Is critical thinking lost? No, it's not lost. You can lose it, but that doesn't mean you permanently lose it. Unless you're dead, then maybe you do. yeah, you'd be dead, obviously. But, in your lifetime is what I'm trying to say. Well, you're still alive, you know? So get off the doom scrolling. Get to some IRL maxing, you know? As my generation at this current time tends to say. By that I mean me. But, look. I don't know how you're gonna react to this video. Not just the person I added, but anybody. You know, even me in the future. That's the crazy part. Even me in the future is looking, going, you should have never posted this because now all of a sudden, all of a sudden you got all these crazy people who are glad that you did. Because now they can use that as evidence for you being a good person. But because they're crazy, they're doing crazy stuff and they do bad things too. Or I just made up a scenario and I didn't understand it either. I know. You know, you get out there, people say words you don't understand. You can look them up if you want. But it's like, even if you get your answer, are you really sure that's what that word means, you know? Because you don't know what you're saying sometimes. Like, I could say, you're a hypocrite. But do you even know what the word hypocrite means? You know? Even if you have the definition. Even if you got the correct definition. How do you know that's actually the correct definition and that's not just something wrong? Because the thing about words is however they're used depends on generally like what is the most commonly agreed upon way of saying that word, because sometimes they change, sometimes they become completely different words, or sometimes if they stay the same, if they're written the same, if they're read the same, that can still be changed. That meaning of that word can still be changed. But if they stay the same, that's usually because the language hasn't shifted enough for it to actually change for that specific word, whatever it may be. The most common word in the English language is the, the, you know? It's a part of critical thinking, so it's in there. And, the is so common, I said it a whole bunch of times in this video probably, and I didn't even notice either. Look at any TV show. I want to see a YouTube video where it just says, every time it says the in like the entire like TV show or movie, where it's just this show, but it's every single time somebody says the. You know? Like, that would be interesting, because, especially if you do speed runs, because it's like, there's a lot of times people say that. And if you can crack that down, ooh, you're really good at spotting stuff. That's a shocker, ain't it? Really makes you think. At least I don't shock dogs like Hassan Piker. But still, are you critically thinking? Are you thinking in your head? Is there something wrong with you? Maybe. Is there something wrong with the lady that I added? Yeah, you. Miss, whoever you are. Or Mrs.? But, not the end of the world. You know, not my situation personally. But, hey. Just know. Whatever goes on in your life is your personal business, okay? Like, I'm not trying to lecture you on how dumb or smart you are. I'm just simply recommending how you could think. Like, you could think, not just being suspicious of people that you disagree with, but also being equally as suspicious of people that you do agree with, especially those where they tell you only things that you agree with, and they tell you it in a way that you like. They make it sound in a way that you like. They only tell you what you want to hear, not what you actually need to hear, you know? Because sometimes, even if it goes against our beliefs, it's good to know why we do that, you know? It's just as good to know why we like something as disliking something, because if you know why you disagree with it, then you have an actual reason to say you dislike it, you know, and have it in full detail in your head or something like that, for if needed, you know, not like always thinking about it, but like when it does come up and you do think about it, when you are thinking about it, you know how to respond in a way where you can use more vocabulary, where you can, well, that's a part of it, but where you can have an actual conversation with even the people you disagree with or even the people you do agree with. And hey, maybe, just maybe, you could get your mind changed, or you could change their mind, because now you know how to respond properly. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to do that, because they just instantly assume, oh, you said something I disagree with that's on my personal level. Violence. We're going to put physical violence on you like that. No, you don't need to do that for every single problem. Now, if it's a situation of self-defense and they're physically fighting you back, I could probably understand that. But if somebody said, hey, I'm, for an example, pro-gun, I love guns, and you're anti-gun, you hate guns, you hate anybody who doesn't really like, you know, who really likes guns or anything like that. That's one example. That doesn't mean you have to try to fight the guy or shoot the guy with the gun because you wanted to show an example of why guns are bad. The gun itself is not really the issue, because you can get rid of all the guns, but it doesn't change the fact that you wouldn't really get rid of the violence, you know? You would only get rid of one weapon for another, because in the UK, for example, they just switched out guns for knives. That's why the whole stabbing thing is really popular with them recently, because, well, a lot of people do stabbings because guns aren't legal over there. And I live in a country where guns are legal, though. So, what are you gonna do? Now, you don't have to go super pro-gun, just pro-gun enough where you need an actual license. You check, you know, these people have mental illnesses. You check, you know, stuff like that to make sure that if bad things do happen, you can be like, hey, this is a rare case, or hey, you know, this person is a bad, rare example, is somebody who shouldn't be doing that, you know, like, it might still happen, sure. Like, sometimes bad people just do bad things regardless if the law agrees or not, you know? So, because of this, you gotta form things where you can still use a gun, but purely for safety reasons. You can't just use it for being like, hey, I'm gonna go randomly kill people, you know, or hey, I'm gonna go target this individual because, you know, hey, I don't like them, you know, that kind of thing. Because it doesn't matter if it's racism, sexism, xenophobia, whatever it is, people will go so either pro or against that they just lose their minds. Like, being pro sexism, racism, xenophobia does make you a horrible person, and we can acknowledge that and we can say that. But if you go the other route and become super anti-racist or super anti-sexist or super anti-xenophobic, you become the racist, you become the xenophobe, you become the racist. You just are less aware about it because you are assuming you're on the right side of history. And no, it's not just the left that says that, but that's also the right too. You know, like, people don't realize that their side is being exploited, not just because they assume they're doing the right thing, but because they feel like they're doing the right thing. Because a lot of people are just emotions, feelings, and vibes nowadays. You know, they're not actual critical thinking. And it really gets in their head, you know? And there's not much I can do about it because, well, I can only say, hey, do this, do that. But it's like, unless you're gonna actually do, you know, smart people stuff, you're not gonna get anywhere, you know? Like, hey, but that's hard, I can't do this because of this. Bullshit. Okay? I know I was gonna say less swear words, but this is exceptional. Okay? I call bullshit. You know why? Because if you really want to actually do something, then go ahead and try. Not every dream, sure, is worth going towards. Guess what? Every realistic one may be worth going towards. That doesn't mean you have to be in the gym all day or something like that. But you know what it does mean? It does mean you could go make your own company or something. You know, give yourself time to think. Go outside when, you know, you can, you know, when it's appropriate. Or maybe, you know, talk to friends or relatives that you may have not talked to in a while. Or talk to really anybody, you know? Use that language. Use that communication. Or if you don't really want to socialize, what are you gonna do? You know, are you gonna get some chores done? Are you gonna learn a new language? Are you gonna, I don't know, keep watching this video, I guess? But look, again, I'm not trying to trash on this lady. She's just somebody on the internet, you know? For all I know, she could be completely AI. She could be completely artificially intelligence. Oh well. Not the end of the world. Ooh, Spooky Bot said spooky things. Yeah. So did the Spooky Man, but not everybody's afraid of him. Ugh, who would have thought? Shocker. Yeah, but don't become numb to the violence. Don't become numb to, you know, groupthink. Think for yourself. You can even criticize this video for whatever reason, you know? I always like to say, don't think for others, think for yourself, and think with others, not for others, you know? So that way they can think by themselves and be an individual. You know, you can have individualism. And collectivism is bad because, well, when you apply it to a whole group about this one particular thing, you stereotype the whole group. Like, for example, I'm white. I'm a white Caucasian male. Okay? And when it comes to my race, they try to have collective guilt for me being white because my ancestors 300 years ago enslaved this one black tribe that these tribe members sold them to, but because the white people had the slaves at that particular time, oh no, they're specifically evil because, you know, oh, they're European, or oh, they had the more major well-known history. Like, no. First of all, every civilization either enslaved or was enslaved, not just European people. European are more famous for this because they just kind of figured the system out a little bit better. But it's not like, Europeans are those Europeans from long ago were all of a sudden super innocent for doing this stuff. No, obviously they did crime. But just like how, indigenous people have their wars or have their, crimes or things that were a lot more exaggerated throughout history, about, say, cannibalism or whatever. There are a lot more things that are exaggerated about Europeans, Like, yes, there is a lot of history coming from what they call Native Americans. And I'm saying native because, let's be for real, humans, if you want to go far back enough, they're the genetic line, the cultural line, the linguistic line. You go far back enough, it all goes back to Africa because that's the continent that humans originate from. But does that mean we should send everybody back to Africa? No. Just like how we shouldn't send everybody to Europe, because not everybody wants to be in Europe. Not everybody wants to be in Asia, Oceania, North or South America, or Antarctica. If you want to be there, fine. But you shouldn't have to be there. You shouldn't be forced to be there. You know what I mean? Like, it should only be a choice, not a mandatory thing. Just like critical thinking. You either use it or you lose it. You don't have to have it, but you can have it. Like, that's the thing about human learning. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be the most self-aware person to ever be self-aware. I mean, that could be a part of it, but that doesn't mean you have to be. That just means, like, you're capable of actually thinking about issues. You're actually capable of, understanding things without having to constantly cause conflict over bullshit, over the littlest things, or the unimportant stuff, or if it is the important stuff, you're gonna try to shift it to this or that, instead of actually having a conversation or actually having a thing to talk about, And all of this over what goes in your head. All of this entire video, all just because of what goes on in your head. The whatever you want to call it, brain cells, magic, the Holy Spirit giving you a sign, I don't know. You have the ability to think. Humans are the most dominant species on the planet, at least in terms of intelligence and, thinking skills. Things like that, languages and overall just knowing stuff, I guess. Because, a monkey might have, this or that. Even if they're smarter than you, they're still a monkey. They're gonna use it to do monkey stuff. They poop on the walls and, I don't know, eat fruit. They eat watermelon. They eat I assume, what do you call it? Carrots, I think? I don't know. They're monkeys, especially chimpanzees. They look at you and go, ooh, 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 ah. Like they make funny noises. They do sign languages and stuff. But I'm telling you one thing right now. Monkeys are not exactly the friendliest. Okay? Similar thing with other types of humans, people who are alive in your lifetime. Not exactly the friendliest. But you can find people who are friendly if you look far enough. You can question stuff. You can do these things. So might as well, right? Might as well be the superior species. Because your dog don't know stuff. Your cat don't know anything. So what are you gonna do? Might as well teach it to the next generation. See what happens. Who knows? Maybe we will conquer the universe, and that one little alien guy will be like, "Take me to your leader," and you will be able to name that leader. Yeah, I'm talking about you in that one specific country, or any specific country, or any country really, where you don't know who your leader is, your world leader, your president, your prime minister, whoever it is, whatever kind of person you have, a king perhaps, who knows, whatever. Anyway, I think you get the idea of today's video. Quite a long video. A lot longer than I thought it would be. But hey, do you have any answers, questions, facts, ideas, thoughts you may have? You can maybe, just maybe, put it in the comment section down below. And if you're the person I added, just know I'm not trying to be evil. Okay, I'm trying to be at least a basic good guy. You know, I'm trying to be a normie, so to speak. I'm not really a normie, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Oh, I didn't do it every day. You know, like I'm not trying to get in with the whole dark thoughts or something. No, that doesn't mean buying a funny shirt. Okay? Dark thoughts are crimes. So, at least to you or whatever. Well, they're not actual crimes. They're like metaphorical. The only time they're actual crimes is if you commit a crime. You know? But you haven't committed a crime. So, at least I'm assuming you're not committing a crime. So there's that. But anyway, yeah, again, any answers, questions, thoughts, ideas, theories, facts, whatever you want to put, you can put it in the comment section. Maybe make your own video about it. Who knows? Who knows? But there's that, you know. Don't let the Hassan Piker or the Asmongold dictate everything you do. Now, Asmongold's not exactly the best. He does have some good opinions. He does have some bad opinions. But he is kind of extreme. And obviously you don't want to be like Hassan Piker because he's just extreme anyways. You know, there's nothing really... even if it's something you agree with, he's not exactly a good person regardless. You know, like, Asmongold may be an exception, but Hassan Piker, no. But, like, I think you get the idea, you know, there's one extreme or the other. Even if one is slightly better, it's still an extreme, you know? Like what I said with Asmongold. He may be slightly better, but it's not like he can't be criticized. He can obviously be criticized. He's literally called the Cockroach King for a reason. And he owns it too, so at least I'll give him that. But anyway, yeah, you can interpret anything about this video as you will. And if you want to like the video, you can like the video. And if you want to dislike the video, you can dislike it by hitting the dislike button twice. Anyway, if you really, really want to, you can, well, subscribe. And I know it makes me sound like Watch Mojo, but, like, don't forget to turn on your YouTube notifications on your settings, on your notification settings on your regular, you know, default settings app, website, whatever you want to call it, for your computer, phone, TV, or whatever, for YouTube. And then you can turn on your notification. You can either turn it off, meaning like there's nothing, you're gonna get really notified. You can be subscribed, but you're not gonna be like really notified about anything. You can get personalized, meaning you'll get notified about certain videos or some videos, and all, meaning anytime I make an update, anytime I make an upload, you'll be always notified. That kind of thing. So, yeah, interpret that information however you want to interpret that. I'm not going to dictate what you do. And again, like I said earlier in this video, I can only say whatever I want for so long. It's only up to you how you can interpret it, you know? Like, I can only tell you, but unless you actually do these things, it's all just nonsense. It's all just words from a mouth. It's all just words from a native English-speaking mouth. you know? But anyways, yeah, critical thinking, huh? That's about it. Bye.